Why am I dressed in black today? Because I just came from SEO's funeral. It is dead as a doornail. So, look, instead of mourning its demise, I think we're probably better off trying to figure out what's next. But how do we get the AI models to spit out our name when they get asked for the top three companies or people that do what we do? Because if I was at a company right now and I had a problem, a go to market problem or an innovation problem or a team problem, and I wanted to hire a consultant to help me fix it, what I'd probably do is fire up ChatGPT or Perplexity and say, hey, who are the top three go to people for this? So, how do you get your name on that list? And that's what we're talking about today. So, I did a deep dive into how AI models find and recommend content because we know the old rules just don't apply anymore. But what's tricky is that the new ones haven't been written yet. So, I'm Laura Zavelson, and this is the GenXpert Show, where we talk about how you can use content to become the go to in your niche without having to hire a bunch of contractors or working nights and weekends to make it happen. So let me start with my own SEO sob story, okay? I consistently blogged for 3 years. I did my keyword research. I used the H1 and H2 tags. I put words in all the keywords in my alt image tags. I wrote those annoying comprehensive guides for search engines. And by the way, I hate those. Like when you're going to search for like you want a chocolate cake recipe and you click on one and you're like, this is the history of chocolate cake, and this is why chocolate cake is popular, and this is how you serve chocolate cake. And all I want is the recipe for chocolate cake. Um, I don't like reading them. I didn't like putting them out there. I really prefer to write articles that are going to help people quickly, let them get the information they need quickly, and that they'll enjoy reading. But it didn't matter what I did because I wasn't getting a lot of attention from Google anyway. Most of my keywords were either sponsored or the other half were from huge, content farms like HubSpot and some of those other big marketing sites. So I couldn't get in anywhere. That's actually one of the reasons that I switched my content to YouTube first in January of this year. Search works a little differently there, and I'm definitely finding it easier to get found. But look, I don't know how long that's going to last because no matter what kind of a platform that you use, podcasting, YouTube, blogging, Substack, it doesn't really matter. AI is throwing all the cards in the air in terms of how you get found and who gets mentioned. So let's take a look at this new reality. And first of all, if anyone tries to tell you that they know exactly how AI search works, they are lying. Engineers and researchers from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they have all publicly acknowledged that as the models grow more complex, their reasoning processes actually become more opaque, even to their creators, right? So there is no comprehensive, real time understanding of how the LLMs make decisions or how citations and mentions are selected. So let's just acknowledge that no one is an expert on this yet. And if they try to sell you on that, do not give them your money. Okay. So, what I want to focus on in this episode is what we do know and how we can be proactive and set ourselves up to take advantage of opportunities as our understanding improves. All right. So, I want to start by taking a minute to look at the big picture about the key differences between how Google's old search algorithm works and how the AI models work. So, the biggest one is that the AI models don't scan the page as a whole and rank it. Instead, they break the content into chunks and then they synthesize that. The other thing we know is that they scan the website as a whole instead of just looking at the individual pages. And then we also know that similarly to Google, they like clear language and clean formatting. Okay. So they still are looking for that informational structure that the Google algorithm also preferred. So the summary that Perplexity gave me, the exact words, is that since AI powered search and LLMs are incentivized to create conversational, context aware summaries and answers, they focus more on semantics, context, and user intent versus exact keywords or backlink juice. Great. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that fact based content is going to do well. It means that structured content is going to do well. And I think the key difference is that building a presence across the web versus just optimizing individual pieces of content for keywords is going to be the key strategy change here going forward. So, more importantly, what action can we take here, right? What can we do to set ourselves up for success while the details on this are all still unfolding? Well, two things kept coming up in my research. One is that you need to be putting out consistent authority signals. So that means that you need to have ongoing content around a specific topic. So let's say you have a blog or a podcast and on it you talk about, go to market, right? But also you talk about your personal hobby of restoring old cars and sometimes you talk about your dog. That is going to send a weaker signal than someone who talks about go to market strategy all day, every day. And then the other thing is that you want your name or your company name associated with the same message or the same take on that topic in all the places that you appear on the web, right? Because remember, what we do know is that the AI models take chunks of information, right? And then they compare it with each other. And that's something that Google really didn't do. So, your website, your podcast, your LinkedIn, your bios, right? Those all need to be consistent wherever you show up on the web. Okay. Then the other thing that came up in my research is that it actually is going to help if you have a unique or differentiated perspective because the AI models appear to favor sources that offer unique insights or frameworks or methods. They like distinctive analysis and opinions. Okay, to summarize, then the takeaways are that our content goals need to be consistency in terms of topic and differentiation from the rest of the pack. So that can be in terms of your approach or your opinion. So the cool thing is that this is not only going to help AI find you, these actually also happen to be the things that signal humans to want to engage with your services as well. Now, there's one part of this that's a disconnect at the moment, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for very long. So, right now, YouTube and podcasts, I think, are super interesting platforms for long form content because I think decision makers are increasingly willing to go there to look for expertise. I think that audio and video build relationships faster than text alone. And I also, you've heard me say this before, YouTube and podcast platforms work as recommendation engines in addition to, getting found by your keywords. But the thing is, at the moment, AI cannot directly access what's in your video or your podcast. So it can see that it's there. It knows you made a podcast or a video. It knows about the topic. It's going to count that in terms of credibility, but very few of the models can actually get in there and see what you're saying. So if you're using a podcast or YouTube, you need to make sure you're posting good descriptions and you're also letting the transcript be available. So then the AI can absorb that and get at it and kind of put that into its model that's going to then lead to being more able to recommend you. So, what are the best practices as we go into 2026? I would say number one is build a body of work around a specific subject, right? Pick your platform. So, blog, YouTube, podcast, put your stuff out there. You want to be seen as a unified source on a particular topic. So, that's one of the reasons that my client engine strategy recommends that you pick one platform and you put your content there. Okay. The second thing is to double down on showcasing your expertise, your credibility, and what makes you different. So, this is all the trust building stuff that we talk about with the POV framework, right? Your methods, your opinions, and your stories. To the extent that you can extend this beyond your own platform, so putting it out there on social media, podcast guesting, maybe media mentions, I think all that gets mixed in as well. And then finally, I think you want to be consistent. I think timeliness is important because the AI engines appear to value up to date information. So I hope this helped you get a better understanding of the current thinking around getting found by AI. I'm going to continue to cover this topic as more best practices in the area start to take shape. And if you want to stay with me on that, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. In the meantime, it appears that strengthening your credibility through differentiated content is going to be an important strategy going forward. And so, if you want a framework for doing that, you can hop on the priority list for the client engine. I put a link in the description. So, that's going to do it for me today. Have a good one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.